and welcome to Learning Goal 1 of Unit 4, which is all about geometry. This learning goal is all about different vocabulary, so you want to be able to name and label different geometric figures. So in your math notebook, you're actually going to have two things in front of you right now. You're going to have your notebook, and you're going to have your little note-taking sheet that we put together for you. So in your notebook, you're going to write the learning goal and then just sort of put it off to the side because you'll come back to it after you're done to write or answer your guiding questions. After you're done with that, you can pull out your note-taking sheet, and we will be using that from here on out. So we are going to do a little bit of review vocabulary first, and you should see on your little sheet that there's room for a bunch of different vocab words. So we've got the words for you. Your job is to write in what it looks like and the definition. So our first one is a line, and you just want to draw this in, and the definition of a line is just any straight path that goes on forever in both directions. So that's what those little arrows represent, is that it keeps going forever. And if we end up going too fast, pause us, write it down, and then, hit play again.
The second example is a line segment. So once again, write it down, draw your little picture here. And definition for a line segment is it's part of a line that has the two endpoints. So you'll notice a big difference between a line and a line segment.
I like to think of if you had like a big long line and you like cut a chunk out of it, that would be a segment. Because it ends.
Yes.
All right, a ray. A ray is sort of a mixture of the two. It starts out with an endpoint, like a line segment, and then it keeps going forever the other direction, forever and ever, like a line.
All right, and next one is an angle. It's really two rays put together. A figure formed when two rays or line segments share a common endpoint, and so you'll notice they meet up at that endpoint there, also called a vertex. We'll talk about that, I think, in the future.
I think.
And
the next one is a right angle, and this should not be anything new to you. You have seen this before, but a right angle is just any angle that measures 90 degrees. And if you notice is this little square down here in the corner, that is a lot of times how they will show a right angle, and you can just automatically know if you see that, it means it measures 90 degrees. So now what you need to look at is you've got your pictures drawn, or you should. You need to now label the points. So we have a whole bunch of points here. They're all A's and B's or C's down here in the angles. But quickly just pause this and put those in, because we're going to talk to you about how to name these different geometric shapes. So go ahead, pause this, write that down, and then come back. All right, the first one is a line. So we've got our line, and we've got our points A and B are somewhere on this line. So the way that we would name this is you would have AB, because that's the name of the 2 points, and then above it, you would show it with a line, with the 2 little arrows at the top. So if I was reading this, if all I saw was this part, I would say this was line AB. That's how I would read it.
all right, and very similar, but with a line segment, once again, this is line segment AB. So you're going to show that with the letters, and then right above it, just a straight line. You don't have to add the arrows. But I would read that as being a line segment now, AB.
And with a ray, you can probably guess what's going to go on top of that. You've got the AB again, because you've got the 2 points on it. So you're going to have one that ends with no arrow, because it stops there. It's a point. And then it goes on forever in the other direction. So I would read this ray AB.
Now with an angle, you're going to have something before the letters this time instead of on top. And so just before the letters, you're going to show a little angle, smaller one, And then what you want to do is start at one of the endpoints there and do either A, B, C. B should be in the middle. Or you could flip it and say CBA. Either way is fine. You just want to make sure that the endpoint where the 2 points meet are in the middle.
Yep. Like I couldn't say it was CAB.
No.
Because there's no, you have to be able to trace it almost and not be able to pick up your pencil.
Exactly.
Yep. And then with right angles, just the only difference is instead of having the little angle here, you have the one that looks more like a square corner. So right angle ABC. And again, if this was a D, an A, and an R, I would say angle, or right angle DAR, or RAD, rad. Nice.
Plan that. One other section that we just wanted to talk to you about is you'll notice this little chart over here, and we talked a lot about the line and ray and line segment and angle. Just to make sure you understand though, parallel lines, if we saw something like a symbol in between our lines here, this just means that they're parallel. They won't ever touch.
Like these two, if they went on forever, they would never touch.
Yes. And then down here too, perpendicular lines, there's this symbol right over here, and that just shows that they are intersecting in some way, and so it's
perpendicular
just a
is 90 degrees. So if you see it, it's like a upside down T is what it looks like.
Yes.
So just a couple more for you.
Draw a line, make a ray, make a line segment. It's so plain and to the point. Come on, you can do it. Draw a line, make a ray, make a line segment. It's so plain and to the point. Come on.
All right, now on to our new vocabulary. Okay, so the first one is intersect. So if you think of like an intersection when you're driving, the roads cross, right? It's where roads meet. So an intersection here is just where two lines connect. They intersect. So wherever they meet, that is an intersection. So that's what we're talking about when we say they're intersecting lines. And then we're going to use that for our next two, which are...
Yes, we have opposite angles, and those are directly across from each other when the two lines intersect. Now, what's interesting is just another word for them is vertical angles. So you can use those interchangeably, either say opposite angles or vertical angles. Basically, though, they're just opposite each other, and they are equal too. And we'll talk more about why we would need to know that. So looking here, just reading our angles ABD, and so we can follow along right here. Here's A to B to D, and then we have CBE. These two angles right here are opposite, and they're also called vertical. Now, we want you to take a moment, and just in your notes, you are going to be also finding another pair of vertical angles. So think about how you have a pair of shoes. You want to list two different vertical angles. Just like
And guess what? There's more! And now comes the hard ones. These ones, we're trying to come up with some like witty ways to help you remember them, and I think we came up with a couple. Hopefully you guys like them. The first one are complementary angles. Angles means more than one. It's actually two angles who, when you add them together, their sum is 90 degrees, so it makes a right angle. So the way that I think about it, and you can see that here, you see their little square in the corner shows that it's a right angle. So this angle plus this angle equals a 90-degree angle. So the way I remember is a complementary is like a complement. So, oops, I skipped ahead. Is like a complement, and if it's a if you're complimenting someone, they must be right. So it's a right angle. I don't know.
I think that's pretty good.
Sometimes in the real world, two angles join together to form a right angle. Other times, two angles join together to form a straight angle. These two angles together form a right angle. We call them complementary because when you add them, they equal 90 degrees.
Looking at supplementary angles, that is similar, but you'll notice we still have two angles, but now those two angles add up to 180 degrees. So
This step is a great example of two angles that form a straight line. These two angles are called supplementary because together they add up to 180 degrees.
and then if I explain straight angle, I'll sort of tie in our connection here. So a straight angle is basically just an angle that measures 180 degrees. So when you see a straight line, basically that's a straight angle.
Yep, 180 degrees is just a straight line. That's all it means.
And so we're just thinking here, supplementary starts with S and equals 180. And straight angle starts with S and also equals 180. Maybe that's just another way to help you remember supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees.
In the alphabet, the letter C for complementary comes before the letter S for supplementary. And in a number line, 90 comes before 180. So C complementary goes with 90 degrees and S supplementary goes with 180 degrees. A corner is a 90-degree angle and a corner is complementary, C for C. A straight angle equals 180 degrees and supplementary angles are straight angles, S for S. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees.
Yes, we're done
Finally.
with vocab. Now it's time to try some. So we have this shape here that has a whole bunch of different things on it. Lots of the figures we talked about are on here. So we're going to go through a couple of examples, and then, as always, you'll get to try a few. So if you look on your little note-taking sheet, this should say example 1. This is where we want you to put what your answer is. So example 1, name a straight angle. So looking at this, there's actually a couple of options that you could pick from. So pick one, make sure you write it the right way, so angle, whatever. Look back at your notes and write that down, and then come back and we'll do example 2.
All right, so example 2, now you're going to once again name a pair, so two angles that are supplementary. So think to yourself, supplementary starts with what letter? Just a little clue.
The same letter as
Ooh.
straight. All right, so write that one down. And again, there are a couple of options you could pick from for this. There are actually quite a few.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that shape. So pick one, and we'll check those out tomorrow. And example 3, if angle YAU is equal to 50 degrees, then which angle also measures 50 degrees? So first you need to find YAU. So find the YAU, and we have it labeled here 50. So if this angle is 50 degrees, what other angle must also be 50 degrees? And we talked about one of our vocab words was talking about how they're different. Certain ones are equal. So look back if you don't remember.
Ooh, example 4. Now you're going to draw some examples. So this is all in one box, but you're going to just draw these 3 different vocab words. So CD, E, F, and G, H, looking carefully at those symbols above the letters.
Yeah, we're purposely not saying them correctly because
Yes.
we want you to be able to read them. All right, and then again, pause it because I'm sure we're zooming ahead of you. Example 5, similarly, this time you're going to be drawing a couple of angles. So angle IJK and remember what this one is, LMN. So you'll have 2 different angles drawn. And that's it. So when you are done, you should bring this tomorrow and then also bring your guiding questions and your example problem written in your journal. And we'll see you then.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time.